Yo. What's up? I'm vlogging. I'm trying to become a YouTube star, Ray. Yeah, I'll be in the car in a few minutes. I'll call you. Welcome to Lynn. Lynn, the city of sin. Our latest project, biggest project to date. Super excited. The goal is to take this building behind us, tear it down, and we plan on building 50 residential units and 1 commercial space. Lynn is a new market for us. We're typically used to working in mainly closer to the city of Boston or in the city of Boston. This is a kind of a tertiary market that we've been looking at for a while, and hopefully by the time you're watching this, we are taking the building down or have closed on it. We're currently in our due diligence phase, but we are very, very excited. Like I said, this is definitely our biggest project to date. We have beautiful New England weather out, as you can see, cold, rainy, and freezing. Construction costs on this are coming in somewhere. We're working on our detailed budget, but somewhere around $12 million for the build. This is going to be obviously the most expensive build we've done, which begs the question, how do you fund these types of projects? How do you fund projects in general? It's something that I feel developers and builders struggle with all of the time, trying to find the money, especially when you're starting out. When we first started out, we were scrapping together as much cash as possible. We didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't know what sources of capital were out there. So wanted to take the time and talk a little bit about the various types of capital that is out there and available, and how you guys can leverage that capital. So let's try to go in somewhere that's a little bit warmer and we can kind of get into a little bit more detail. So our very first project, Ray and I actually funded the entire thing using credit cards and also taking loans out on our 401ks. I don't advise doing that. There's plenty of other ways now that we know to raise capital and to fund projects, but that's how we funded our first one. As we got more experience, we started using private lenders and then ultimately graduated to traditional bank lending. We also realized that in order for us to scale, because the projects that we're doing cost quite a bit amount of money. The acquisition costs in Boston is high, labor is high, construction is high. We're averaging at least $1 million for every project, if not more. So we realized, in order to scale, we didn't want to fund it all ourselves, nor could we. So we did have to start bringing on investors at that point, and that opened up a whole other arena that we didn't really know anything about, and we were able to learn about raising capital, bringing on investors, and allowed us to ultimately scale the business. So let's talk about how you fund an actual deal. There's the debt portion of the deal, and then there's the equity portion of the deal. The debt portion of the deal is where the majority of the money is going to come from. That's going to be from a lender, whether it's a hard money lender, a private lender, or a traditional bank. That lender is never usually going to fund 100% of the deal. So you're gonna have to come up with an equity portion of the project, which is usually like your down payment. Most of the time, lenders will require probably somewhere between 20 and 30% down, depending on the project. You can finagle those numbers, give or take. The larger the project is usually funded more along the lines of overall cost. So they'll loan you up to 89% of the total project cost or 90% of the total project cost versus just a specific straight down payment on a regular project or a smaller project. So all of that equity that you have to come up with, or your money down or your down payment, say you're spending $100,000 on a project and you have to put 20% down. So you need to come up with $20,000 to put down in order to close the loan. The lender usually will fund 100% of the construction costs, but that 20% is on the purchase price. Obviously, if you have to do this or you want to do this multiple times at once, it's hard to come up with all of that money, especially if you start doing larger projects and more expensive acquisitions. So this is where investors come in. So when we're looking to start a new project and we need to raise money, there's a number of things we need to factor in when we're calculating the overall number we're looking to raise from investors. Obviously, the biggest number is going to be the percent down that we need to put that the lender is going to require. Typically, that's 20 or 25%. So that's going to be the majority of the money that we're going to need to raise. The other things that we need to calculate or add on to the investor raise are things like holding costs throughout the project, how much interest we need to carry. So we're gonna have to make mortgage payments or interest payments throughout the entire duration of the project. If the project is 12 months, if it's 24 months, depending on the length of the project, we need to make sure that we can cover those costs. So we need to add up what all of our interest payments are going to be throughout the project and add those on to how much we need to raise. What's important to know about the interest payments is that amount is going to increase based on how much construction draw you are going to pull from throughout the project. So at the beginning of the project, your overall loan amount is going to be based primarily just on the purchase price. But as you start construction or as you start any value add component to the project, you're going to start to draw from the construction funds for that lender. So as you draw the construction money that you need for your project, that money gets added on to the loan balance, thus increasing your interest payment. So you need to make sure that you factor that in when you're calculating your holding costs throughout the project. Other carrying costs that you need to be aware of are real estate taxes, how much you're going to be paying to the municipality for the duration of the project. Insurance, you're going to need some type of builder's risk or some type of insurance that covers you while you're under construction, and just general smaller items such as utilities, etc. The other big component that a lot of people don't realize is a lender reimburses you for work that is completed. So you can't just ask for a draw for construction right up front. You need to actually come up with money to front for the initial construction costs. So if you have a $100,000 construction budget, you need some money to start the construction before the bank will reimburse you or before you can request a draw from the bank. So making sure you have enough money at the start to begin construction is also very important. So all of that gets added up, and then that's the amount of money you need to come up with in order to carry the project through the entire duration, including your down payment, closing costs, etc. So once we calculate all of the costs that we need to raise for a particular project, we create an investor prospectus, or an offering memorandum, as sometimes it's called as well. And this is a package that we put together that details the project, highlights who Ray and I are, what we're all about, what our company's all about, the history of our business, and kind of the track record that we've done and projects we've done in the past. It has detailed construction budgets in there. There are comps on both the resale side, if we're going to be selling the units, or on the rental side, if we're going to be leasing up the units. It also has information about architectural plans, site plans, detailed drawings of the project itself, what the expected pro forma is going to look like, how the project is going to perform based on specific metrics or specific numbers. Frequently asked questions that we get a lot when we're sending out an investor prospectus to our investor pool. And then finally, obviously, we're gonna detail what the return to our investors is going to be. And that can be both equity or debt. Each project is going to be different, and the way you calculate what your investor return is going to be on each project is going to be different. We offer equity sometimes, we offer debt sometimes, and sometimes it depends on how much the investor is actually going to invest into the project. And there's kind of a sliding scale that is outlined in the prospectus that shows what the investor's return is going to be based on how much they're going to invest in the project. But simply debt is more of a straight interest rate or a straight return on their investment that they're going to get, whether it's annualized or however you set it up, versus equity, where they're actually going to get an ownership portion of any profit that is made, or cash flow that is done, or cash flow that is generated if it's a rental versus a sale. So there's so many ways you can structure an investment deal or the equity portion of a project. But that is kind of how we break down our specific investor prospectus or offering memorandum. Now at this point, we send that out to our pool of investors, and it's kind of a first come, first serve. You know, we detail how much we're looking to raise. Here's the number. Once all funds are fully committed for a project, we send out another email and say, hey, thank you for the opportunity. We fully funded this project. If you are still interested in investing with us, let us know, and we'll definitely keep you on the list and send you the prospectus on the next one. The next step of raising capital is drafting all of the investment documentation and contracts and legal stuff. Now, we're not attorneys, so we highly recommend that you hire an attorney to draft up these documents for you. Sometimes they can be unsecured, sometimes it can be secured, so that's something, again, that you're gonna have to go back and forth with for a particular project. A lot of lenders aren't gonna want any type of position on title, which means they are gonna want first position in line if something does go wrong. And every time you do a construction draw, a lender is going to do a title exam. And if one of your investors or someone else has a lien or something else or a mortgage on the property, they're not gonna want that. So you kind of need to structure your investment documentation in such a way that keeps the investors protected, but also keeps them off of the books from a lender itself. So again, reach out to an attorney. They'll help you structure the documentation that's needed and help you structure your kind of operating agreement or your LLC documentation appropriately. In the beginning, you might have to give up a little bit more because of that lack of experience. You might have to give up more to your investors. You might have to give up more because you're not going to be able to use a traditional lender. They're going to want to see a track record. But as you gain that experience and as you gain that track record, your borrowing costs will decrease and your overall profit will increase. Now, I think a huge roadblock that a lot of investors comment about is that they can't do a project because they don't have enough money. And I can't disagree with that statement more. If the project is good enough, and the deal was good enough, there's plenty of money out there and you can definitely find it. I would start by calling a bunch of local lenders, whether they are banks, local banks, community banks in your area. Also call hard money lenders or private lenders. You know, they are advertising all over the place. You can find them on Instagram, you can find them on Facebook groups. Join some local Facebook groups that are in your, geographic location, and you can easily find lenders that are out there that are looking to lend on real estate deals. Biggerpockets.com is another huge resource that you can leverage early on in your real estate career. There's tons of people that you can connect to on there that are local to your market, that are doing actual deals, that you can potentially find a mentor on and shadow them and learn from them and understand the ins and outs of your micro market. Set short-term and long-term goals for yourself. Say I want to raise 100K in 2022 or 2023 and stick to it. And the first 100K or the first 50K or the first 25K will be super difficult and be super painful. But once that happens and once you get a plan in place and system in place, it will grow organically. Now, if you have any questions about fundraising, raising capital for a project, getting a loan on a project, comment below and I'll be sure to answer any questions that you have. If you enjoyed the content, definitely like, subscribe, hit that bell. Appreciate all of your support and comments. Now, what are you waiting for? Get out there, find a deal, and raise some money. End vlog. Is that good?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Great.
It's a wrap.
Yeah, I like how
It's a wrap.